I think we can still do it, win the league.
5 years ago, you created your first video. Why did you do that?
It's always quite an exciting household when we play Liverpool, because on one side I'm just here rooting for Arsenal and my dad and my brother just rooting for Liverpool.
Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans Fanzone with me, Luce. As you can see on the screen, we've got Sophie, otherwise known as Gooner Gossip TV, who I'm really excited to have on this pod. When I was thinking of creating this Fanzone channel, I was like, right, I want to have people that are aligned with me, not only because they support Arsenal, because they chat about Arsenal, but because it's both men and women, and I feel like that is literally what your channel is completely about. I feel like there's not many of us creators, so we've got to stick together, the ones that cover Arsenal as a whole. So I'm very grateful you're here today. And also this feels really weird, like me being the one introducing the show rather than you, because obviously I've been on your channel a few times, luckily. So it's, just feels a bit of a weird role reversal, but I feel like whenever we've spoken before, it's been more about the players or what's been happening right now, which we will definitely touch upon today. But I kind of just want to start from the beginning of the question that I ask every single guest: why Arsenal? So why do you support Arsenal? Is there any particular reason, like family? I know you're from up north, and I'm pretty sure your family don't support Arsenal. So yeah, I just want to know, how comes you decided to pick Arsenal out of every single club you could have chosen?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I've loved your content and I can't wait to chat with you today. And the story is a little bit kind of crazy. I do live up north. My family they do like football, but I'd probably say I'm the biggest one on like most passionate about football. So yeah, I think I just love the way Arsenal played. I mean, when we played Liverpool, I remember we played Liverpool in a game and I just like loved how we played. I loved Wenger at the time. And then since then, I just sort of watched Arsenal even more. And my family were like, "Why Arsenal? Why are you watching Arsenal?" And I just thought, I just loved how we played. And at the time, we had Sanchez and Özil, and they were like my favourite players growing up. And I just thought, you know what? I'm gonna support Arsenal now. And then, ever since like 2015, 2014. I've just, watched Arsenal non-stop. That is pretty much a story. Obviously, I don't go to as many games as I'd like to, but I still like supporting Arsenal from a distance. I like going to games as well, but yeah, that's pretty much my journey. I think Wenger was a big part in why I supported Arsenal. I loved watching him when he was the manager. So yeah, that's pretty much why I supported Arsenal.
I was going to say, I feel like you're probably not the only one to have Wenger as obviously the influence
Yeah.
to why, because of what he achieved with Arsenal and everything. So it makes complete sense. But am I right in thinking that obviously you are a big Arsenal fan, but your family actually support Liverpool?
Yeah, it's so weird. You know what? When we play Liverpool, it's a crazy, crazy game. I'm always like rooting for Arsenal even more. But yeah, my family support Liverpool, so it's not ideal when we play each other, but it's always quite exciting. But yeah, I kind of had the option to support Liverpool when younger, but as I said, I just didn't think they were for me. Like I wasn't interested in them. I knew I loved football, but I just didn't love Liverpool. So I just love watching Arsenal one day, and it's always quite an exciting household when we play Liverpool, because on one side I'm just here rooting for Arsenal and my dad and my brother just rooting for Liverpool.
I was going to say that must actually be mad, because you hear of families where they've almost got like I know some families even have like a North London derby, even if we look at like Leah Williamson, for
Yeah.
instance. I know one of her parents is Arsenal, one's Tottenham, so that must be crazy. But right now, if we're focused on the men's like Premier League, Liverpool and Arsenal, that seems to be the two-horse race in a way. So that must be really tense. But obviously, if you're the bigger football fan, then hopefully,
Yeah.
you come out on top, hopefully. So
Yeah.
it's okay with that. Obviously you mentioned you live up north, so how does that work? Obviously, being a fan, like you create your content, but how does that work in terms of games? Like, have you been able to go to many games? Like, do you have any favorite experiences from those games?
Yeah, I've been to the Emirates. I'd probably say maybe 3 or 4 times, which is amazing. I love the Emirates. I went to an away game last season. It was the Preston one, which was actually, I'd never been to an away game before, so it was quite interesting to actually see the support there, because on the TV when you're watching it, you do feel the support. You can see the support for the fans, but when you're actually there, it's a completely different experience. It's so lovely to hear the support. So yeah, obviously being in the Emirates is always lovely. Being in the home bit's nice because the support there is just incredible. And like obviously to those that haven't been to a game before, it's such a magical feeling being in the home ground. Away games, it was actually weird because I was actually in the Preston end, and the atmosphere was a little bit it was a little bit flat. So I was like sat here, and on the side there, I could hear the Arsenal fans. I thought, I wish I was in that end, but we won good. I was actually really low down as well. So yeah, it's so lovely. It's really weird actually. You know, you see like players in real life, like Saka. I was like, oh my god, I'm literally so close to Saka. I was like, it's such a weird feeling, but yeah, I hope Arsenal fans around the world get to experience going to a game because it is great. I kind of go to games whenever I can, really. Obviously the away games I probably can go to a bit more, but yeah, I go to Emirates when I can as well. But it's just so expensive these days, so it's kind of hard. But yeah, I love going to games.
Yeah, no, I mean it's impressive that you've been able to go to so many because I think people forget that London, like especially obviously I'm a Londoner, people that are
Yeah,
from London we're very much like, oh yeah, everyone can get in and around of it. Even I'm South London and getting to North London it takes like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes to just get up to the Emirates.
yeah,
So for me, I'm like, I can't even imagine having to go further out. So it's so good that you've been able to have those experiences. And like you said, when you see these players in person, you're like, oh my God, they're actually real players. But just
yeah.
talking about obviously the likes of Saka, earlier you mentioned Sanchez. Are there any players that stick out to men's and women's that are your favourite players of all time? That can be present, past, whatever players got you into the game.
I think for the women's game, I mean, I watched that a bit later than the men's because now we do have the great advertisement, you know, you can watch it on Sky. Back then, I quite liked Alex Scott, but she was sort of leaving as I started watching Arsenal. But I think she's definitely been up there, especially her being on TV as well. But just, you know, the Arsenal women players, like, I mean, I did always love Van der Donk when she was at Arsenal. I just loved how good she was in that midfield. But I think Beth Mead, Leah Williamson have probably been the one to me that I've watched them. They've been at Arsenal for such, and McCabe as well. They've been at Arsenal for such a long time, and I'll definitely say watching them as well now grow up, and they're still here, and they've won a Champions League. Um, I think Beth Mead's definitely been one I'd probably say a bit more because, you know, especially since you see what she's been through now, and I just think she's still so good. I still don't think she gets the credit she deserves. Leah as well is a good example because she come through the academy. You look at her now, winning the Euros twice. It's great to see, you know, her do that. Kim Little, I mean, she's just amazing. Like, it's hard to just pick one player for the women's team. For the men's team, I would say Alexis Sanchez was my childhood hero. But there's a few players that I love if you're taking it back. I loved Ian Wright and like David Rocastle. I loved their sort of partnership they had. I loved watching them play together. I loved just how much Arsenal meant to them both. Obviously Henri as well. I don't think to say anything about that. We know how good he is. So, yeah, it's hard to say many amazing Arsenal players from the past, really. But like I said, I always say Sanchez is the one that made me sort of love Arsenal. But yeah, I love Dean Wright and David Rocastle. When you watch games back as well, I just think how much they loved Arsenal. I think that was just so special.
It makes complete sense why you'd pick Arsenal when you're naming all these players because I think you said that connection with the
Yeah,
club and the players you're naming, they're not just, I don't know, just like low key players. They're very much household names, big players that have changed the way we view football, especially the likes of Thierry Henry, Ian Wright, Kim Little, Beth
yeah,
Mead. Like you've named very like big players, and it's so nice that all these players belong to obviously our club. The list was endless when you were going on about the women's side. I felt like could have gone on forever, and I'm the complete same. But you mentioned that you started supporting them later on. What made you think, oh, let me tune into the women's game? Or what was the first, can you remember the first time that you realised maybe there was a women's side or that you can watch this team?
Yeah, I think as well because I used to watch the men's game. I mean, this is taking back like 10 years. I mean, we can see the game has come so far, but I think back then I just don't. I think it might have been on the FA Player, but I don't know if it was still on there. But there wasn't much way you could watch the women's game, so I think what I'd probably done is I'd probably, typed on YouTube Arsenal and, the women's team, like the highlights would come up. So I think I used to start by watching like the highlights of the games on YouTube. I mean, it's just crazy. You look at how much, the game has progressed since then. But I'd probably say I started watching it on highlights on YouTube every so often. Like I said, I think I probably watched them in like 2018, 2019, but I think before then I didn't know much about the women's team because, on TV, it's not what it is now. It wasn't really spoken about a lot, but um, I started watching it on YouTube and then I kind of got a bit invested. So then some of the games were actually on YouTube to watch as they are now. And then I started watching it on like FA Player and now obviously it's on iPlayer, which is amazing. So yeah, I started watching it a little bit more as time went on, but I think it was really hard to watch it because it wasn't on TV, it wasn't on Sky, so it wasn't I think now it's a lot easier to access the games and so yeah, it was harder to watch it back then, but I just gradually watched it on YouTube and yeah, watched them ever since really.
It's so interesting you said FA Player because the minute you said it, I feel like you might have been able to tell my eyes lit up because I was like, oh my God, like FA Player, that is such a throwback because I think that's how for me, I think it was a similar vibe of when I mean, I used to go to the games in person with my dad.
Yeah.
That was my sort of first exposure to the women's game as a whole, and it just happened to be Arsenal, which is obviously how I got into it. But then I think if I go back to like maybe, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, just as I was like A levels vibe about to go to uni, I was like, how do you watch it? And it is the FA Player. Like you said, I'm loving how it's now transitioned to so much exposure. You don't just have to watch the highlights, you can watch the full games, you can watch the games live on whatever TV device you've got, basically. Like, it's so accessible. I think that is maybe, like, I want to hear your views on this, maybe a bit of an issue that as much as the game's growing, it's so good to see the women's game is getting this awareness. But I don't know if it's as accessible now
Mm.
because it's on the likes of Sky. I'm someone who doesn't have Sky Sports, so then I can't watch those games unless I go to the pub or if I'm at work or something like that. So I don't, and obviously for the actual games themselves, you're obviously from not London, so it's like maybe trickier to access it. Do you find that with the women's game growing, maybe the access has like decreased a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have Sky either, so it's kind of hard to find those matches when they're on. Obviously, when it's on the iPlayer, it's great because I have iPlayer, we can watch it. It's hard as well. I mean, some of the games do get streamed on YouTube, but I've not really seen many of the Arsenal ones get streamed. So yeah, it's hard really, especially if you don't have Sky, you can't really find a way to watch it. But yeah, I think the women's game has grown, but I think there's still definitely a lot kind of to be done. I think it would be nice if it was on YouTube or if everyone around the world was able to kind of access it and find it really. But yeah, I don't like it when it's on Sky because I think, how am I going to watch this game today? I'd rather it be on iPlayer or YouTube really.
No, literally, I completely agree. I think as well that's one thing that with Arsenal we are known globally, but it's more the
Yeah.
men's side. And I'm like, the way that we can get the women's side globally to watch the women's team is probably having it on more accessible platforms. But luckily, we do have things like highlights, which obviously started your passion. So hopefully, it can slowly start other people's passions down the line. I sort of want to just transition because obviously heard all about why you love Arsenal and like certain players and memories and things like that. But I want to know, how did you make the transition from being an Arsenal fan to then being like, right, 5 years ago, you created your first video. Why did you do that?
Do you know what? It feels crazy that it's been 5 years. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I started at the worst time because we were just doing really bad. I'm not gonna lie. It was like I think it was just before lockdown. I did content and yeah, it was not the best time, but yeah, I just thought I love Arsenal and like I said, my family in Liverpool. Um, I saw no one understood how passionate I was. I mean, I could talk to my family about football, but I just thought it'd be nice to just sort of rant to the camera on my phone. At the time, I did use my phone, and I just thought I'll upload a video. I wasn't at the time. I never really thought about views. I just thought to myself, I just wanted to upload a video, so my passion of Arsenal was out there. And then I did that once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I wasn't like consistent at the time, but I sort of gradually did sort of once a week or once every 2 weeks. Then I started to do match previews, and then at the time I think a lot of, because I use Twitter as well, I obviously use Instagram, I could show people, like advertise on that, and then I think gradually there more people sort of found my content. But I always started, and I still do it now just for the passion. I mean, I just think it's a great way to let off steam, after a game. If we win, you lose, give you my thoughts, and it's crazy that it's been 5 years actually. And yeah, I just do it every time when I can. Obviously, at the start, I did start off with the men's team, and then I did obviously I have spoke about the women's team actually for a few years as well. So it's actually great to see because some people watch my content just for the women's team. Some people might want to watch it for both, and I think it's great that I think it's always nice when people watch your content. But I always did it because of the passion. I didn't ever at the time I wasn't really bothered about likes or subscribers. I just thought I just needed a rant. That's why basically I did it.
I think every Arsenal fan needs a rant every so often, so I completely get that. I think it's also interesting that you say there's almost like a divide with your subscribers, and I think for me, I've noticed that with my following, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever platform, because you talk about such different teams because yes, there's obviously similarities. It's all comes under the umbrella of Arsenal, but they are very different in how they operate, and obviously all the players are different. So you bring in new audiences, which I think is so good. That obviously I think through you talking about the women's game, you brought me in, and then I was like, oh wait, yeah, I can talk about like the men's game. You can talk about the men's. It's nice that you bring in different people, and I think ultimately what I've sort of gathered from what like your answer just then. Yes, you're saying your passion helps you, but it seems to be this idea for wanting a community, which I think is something that definitely sets Arsenal apart because you can connect with other people through football, which I think is why I wanted to even like just going back to this fan zone episode and this series that I'm creating. I think it's just about connecting with other Arsenal fans because football is so much more than football, and I really like how your answer basically relates to that. I'm just wondering over the last 5 years because I know like when I did a bit of my research, I looked back and I was like, wow, 5 years worth of videos, and it's not just like a one-off. It's match
Yeah.
previews, match reactions, getting guests on, interviews. Like you cover a lot of videos, so it's not just a one episode a week basically. I'm just wondering what are the highs and lows that you've experienced throughout creating content, just for anyone listening, of maybe any words of wisdom you've got.
Yeah, I mean, I think before I went into YouTube, I'd seen like AFTV at the time, and I thought some of the comments, like when people send mean comments, I thought, God, how would I deal with that? So I knew going into it that that would be a part of it. But I think nothing can prepare you for that because some comments can really get you. Like some comments could really upset you. I think at the start I would say that's something I struggled with. Like when I was doing a video sort of maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, I can't remember the comments, but I have had the odd sexist comment, mean comment, and you are going to get that, unfortunately, especially if you're doing well or if people don't like your content. I think that's definitely a low. You get comments, people don't like your content. It's hard to deal with at the start because even though I was expecting it, it can affect you. We're all human beings, like it can upset you. I think those can definitely get to you, but I think I would just say to people, just to block it, ignore it. It's hard, just me sat here, it's hard to, people might be listening, like, hard to ignore it, but it's honestly the best thing to do, and just keep doing what you're doing, really. And yeah, it's going to happen. I'm quite lucky now, to be honest with you, because I don't really get them that much, but you will come to a point where you will get a few comments, and I think it is just best to ignore it, really. And that will happen with YouTube and in life. If people don't like you, they might say things like that. But yeah, I think you just have to ignore it. I think with the highs, I mean, as you said, I've interviewed some great people. I mean, obviously, I did interview Laura Woods. I think that was a year or two ago. Obviously, Robbie Lyle was actually good to interview as well, because with him, I'd watched a lot of him. I feel like I knew him really well because of YouTube, and to finally do a video was great. Like, I've interviewed so many more people, but I think it's just nice. I love, like, I'm sure you do as well when you interview people, but it's nice to hear about people's sort of background and who they are as a person. And I think that's really great with YouTube. So I think the highs definitely, it's always nice when people say, you know, your content's amazing and things like that. It's nice because I know you'll know this, but you work really hard when you do content. You do work hard. You take time out your day, you edit, you do all of that stuff, and I think it's really refreshing when people give you that nice feedback. And I think it's just nice when you upload a video knowing that you've worked hard and you thought, you know what, I'm happy with it. So yeah, I think you are going to experience highs, lows, but I definitely convince people to make out their own content, because I think it's an exciting journey to go on.
No, definitely, definitely. I think it's so interesting when you mention obviously the people you've interviewed, and obviously I've seen on your channel, I've watched that Laura Woods interview, I've watched the Robbie Lyle one as well, and I think it's so cool to be able to just find out people's experiences, and exactly what you said. That's why I've basically set up this series, because as much as I love talking about Arsenal, it's so much more than football. Like, I'm probably going to repeat forever, because I think it's so nice to just connect with other people and find out the backstory, even finding out that your family don't even support Arsenal. And obviously, just what I've learned in the last, what we've been talking for, like 20 minutes, I feel like I've already learned so much about you just through this. So yeah, I completely relate to that. I think it's also, when you mention hate comments and stuff, it's such a sad world that we live in, that that's sort of expected, and it is really
Yeah.
sad. I think on certain platforms you're more likely to find certain comments. So like YouTube, so far the comments just seem to be like, if maybe I've gotten a guess that they don't want, or if I said something, they just say their opinion. They're like, oh, unsubscribed or whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool, unsubscribe, like that's fine. But then I think we always, as humans, we're very good at focusing on the negative of, oh my God, I've got one hate comment. But I mean, when I look at your videos, I see all the comments, and especially when you do live streams, I think that's such a good way for you to interact with your audience. And it always seems very positive, not only when I've been on your channel, but if I've just clicked to view in, it's very much like, oh, Soph, love this, and stuff like that. So I think it's really nice to see that you've built a community that is obviously aligned with you. Because at the end of the day, I don't get why people watch content if they don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So same for like my channel. I'm like, why are you watching it? Like, it doesn't make too much sense. But I think ultimately, in the last 5 years, you're gonna go through ups and downs. But I guess the main question I have is, what has kept you going through all of that, all the ups and downs? Like, what has kept you going through it?
I think as well, like as you mentioned as well, going back as well, it is so nice as well having such a lovely community. I mean, with the live streams, it's actually really nice as well, because even though I might disagree with people, we'll always have good debates, and people in the comments said friendly, which is really nice. And I think people will always leave comments, and that's just part of it. I mean, I think what's keeping me going is, I remember there was a time I did have an operation and I couldn't do content for about a year, and I thought to myself, like, I missed this. And I think if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have that feeling. And I have that, it's really weird, I have that feeling after a game where I just want to do this. Like, I just do it for the love. And I think that's where it comes down to, where that's always kept me going. I mean, I've guests on, I prepare for my videos, but it's just that feeling, sort of like that hunger I have of wanting to do more videos and do more content. I think that keeps me going, because I do genuinely love making videos. I think it's it can be quite fun. I mean, especially if you've won a game, it's always great. But I just have that feeling of, because I do it out of my passion and love, that I'd say keeps me going. Obviously as well with the comments, like I do, it's quite nice actually, because I did a video the other day about Arsenal women, and people just sending their thoughts about the game, and I think it's great as well that I have that audience where I can interact with people. So yeah, I think it's just the community as well keeps me going, because they're so friendly, and they're just, it's always quite consistent. Like, if I do pre-recorded videos, people watch that. If I do live streams, I get I always see sort of the regular people that join. I think that's quite nice, knowing that they want to watch my stream again, and I sort of know them now. So I think that's really nice. So yeah, I think it's just because I do it. I think if you're doing it out of maybe wanting views, it's sort of different. But because I do it because of my love. That keeps me going, because I love watching Arsenal every game. I just always like to chat about it afterwards, or do previews with fans. So I think that's really what's kept me going.
Yeah, I actually love just how you talk about it, because I think not only can I tell now how genuinely happy it makes you, but also throughout your videos and your content itself, you can tell how much fun you're having. And it's so nice that you've got almost regular followers and regular subscribers that interact with you, because I think those comments can be so uplifting. And as much as obviously going through the operation you had must have been so hard to deal with, it's so nice that you had something that you missed to go back to, and that you were able to go back to it and keep creating and pushing that content. I'm just wondering, because like as you're talking, I'm like, you do like various different videos, pre-recorded live streams. What is your favourite part of the process? It's quite a weird question. I've just thought off the top of my head, because for me, I love actually talking and doing this part, and I like watching it back when I'm editing, but I do find the editing part really long and really strenuous sometimes, depending on what it is. When it's with a guest, I love it, because I'm like, oh, this is a conversation. When it's just editing just my voice, I'm like, no, stop talking. Like, this is so bad. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts on what you love about the process of creating content, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing like preview. I think previews are good. I think reviews, I think they're quite good. I mean, it depends kind of how the game goes, but I think that I do genuinely like that, because it's good to see how people see the game differently to us, or just have a different opinion. So I think I love doing the match reviews, but I think, as you mentioned, like when I've spoken to interviewed people, like with match previews, sometimes we get guests on, or if I just do a video interviewing someone, I actually, it's fine when you talk about the editor, it's quite weird having to listen to your voice back. That's the thing I don't like when you're editing it. But I love hearing about people's background, because, you might have a guest on, you might have an idea of what they're like, and you might be different to what you expected. You might, be a lot nicer. And I think I just love hearing about people's story, as you said, because we all support Arsenal wherever we're from, might be globally as well, and I think it's nice to hear people's stories. So I quite like interviewing people, maybe about the love for Arsenal like you do as well, or maybe not if they're not Arsenal fan, just interviewing people, getting to know their background. But yeah, I do interview people. The match previews, like I said, they're good. The reviews are good, but it's nicely different type of videos as well. Like prediction videos, obviously going to the season, things like that. So yeah, that's what I pretty much say for the content really that I like doing, because I think it's fun doing different type of videos.
No, definitely. And I think the variety as well for your followers keeps it interesting, because sometimes it's with different people. And one thing you mentioned that I love, that sometimes you don't have Arsenal fans on and you're previewing certain games. Like I know, I'm pretty sure you did it with a Newcastle fan last week ahead of the men's Premier League fixture. And I think it's just really interesting when you get different fans, because you get even broader perspectives. And obviously you can't be too biased, because you know that they're going to call you out because they're rooting for their team. So it's actually more of a back and forth, which I love as well. So I love the variety of it all. And obviously you did mention previews, which is a big thing. And I kind of just want to like preview the rest of the season, talk a bit about the season that's happened now, but also look ahead, because I mean, talking about both the men's and women's, there's so much to talk about. I feel like the men's game has sort of it's been a bit up and down. Some people are trying to rule us out of the title race, and then for the women's, some people are saying if we don't win in if we don't win in tomorrow's game, the title race is done for us. And I'm like, right, it's literally been a few weeks. Like, let's relax. But I just want to hear your thoughts. Firstly, let's focus on the men's side. What are your thoughts on it? Like, with obviously Champions League football, Premier League, we've obviously progressed in the Carabao Cup as well. So yeah, what's your overall thoughts and feelings of the season so far?
Yeah, I think now you look at it as we're filming this as well. I think we're 2 points behind Liverpool, so it feels much better now. I mean, I think the Liverpool loss was quite a difficult one because I think what I've noticed this season, Arteta's getting better at it now, but I think he has been questioned quite a lot, and I do think he has to play a bit more attacking wise, like midfield. I mean, I'm not massive on Marino midfield, so I think some of the questions to him have been fair. I think we started off quite good. We beat United. We didn't play great, but we got the result. We had a few good performances, against Leeds, Nottingham Forest. Just when we play the teams like Man City, I think we could have won that game, but I feel content with it, if I'm being honest, because we're quite close to Liverpool. I think Liverpool could probably drop more points. So yeah, we're definitely in a title race. I just think we've obviously got a big game as well coming up this weekend, so we do have to, make sure we win that one. But yeah, I think we've had a decent enough start. We've picked up draws, we want to really pick up. But yeah, I think it's been good as well to your new signings. I mean, Mosquera, I think it's been amazing. Steven Mendy getting into that midfield. Obviously Gyökeres hopefully will get more goals. I think he's been doing great so far. So I feel okay about how it started. I think because we beat Newcastle, I feel a lot better knowing that we've closed that gap really. Because I think if we had lost Newcastle, that gap would have felt massive.
No, literally. I think people even like just talking to friends, both Arsenal fans and not Arsenal fans, they were all just saying, yeah, if Newcastle win and Liverpool win this weekend, that's you done. And I was like, what? Like, it just seems a bit dramatic how soon, but it is crazy that if suddenly we saw it last season, that I think around Christmas, Liverpool had that lead of about 10 points. So I think, like you said, as long as we can keep the gap close, then we're
Yeah.
all good. Our squad depth, you've mentioned Mascara, Zubimendi. We've got so many players that I'm almost like every week I don't know who's going to start where, but it's so good for Arsenal because we are competing on so many different fronts. So we've got the Champions League, which obviously we won on Tuesday, and then sound like we won the whole thing. I wish. The Champions League game obviously on Tuesday we won, and then obviously we've got like Premier League coming up. Just your thoughts on West Ham. Do you have a score prediction off the top of your head? Because hopefully this video will go out today, so it will be before that game.
Yeah, I think it's hard. They've got a new manager, which is typical. Just before we play them, I think we'll win it. I don't think it'll be like an easy win. I don't know. I'm thinking like 2-0, 2-1 to Arsenal. I think we should get the job done. I think knowing that we can close that gap even more, I think should give us that motivation. So I know 2-0, 2-1. West Ham have got a new manager. They might get that new manager bounce. They might want to start performing a lot better. So I think we'll win this, but not like a unfortunately.
I completely agree with that. I think that manager bounce can be so it can be so I don't know, it doesn't necessarily speak the truth, the manager bounce, because we saw obviously they drew to Everton away from home last week. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're actually getting to a point where they might find that success. And it just happens that we're within that manager bounce, definitely. Whether they can keep that going and sustain it for a while, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I definitely want to echo that as well. Just your thoughts just on the men's team. There's so many players that we could talk about right now, but one that I feel like he's been spoken about a lot, and there's sort of mixed reviews, especially because of his position. I just want to hear your thoughts on Gyökeres and what you think he can actually offer Arsenal, and if you're actually happy with what he's doing so far, because he hasn't really found the score sheet much recently, which is predominantly his job. But for me, anyways, I've noticed that his hold up play and certain aspects of his play have improved, obviously coming from a different league. But I just want to know, do you feel like Gyökeres is the right number 9 for our team?
I think, as you mentioned, he hasn't, scored recently, which is a little bit of a concern, but we have had a lot of tough games, and I think in those games you're not always like, you play Man City, Liverpool, you're not gonna have like a lot of the ball, so I think it's harder. I think he will be okay. I feel like as long as we have creative players in the team, I think he was building a really good sort of partnership with Eze. We've seen that quite a lot. Eze has been amazing. He's made a difference. I think as long as Gyökeres can get chances, I think he'll do okay. I think if you play kind of a defensive midfield, I think he's going to struggle. It's hard as well because you've got Odegaard as well. He's really great at creating chances. So I think if we have creativity in the team, I think he'll do well. I'm not really surprised he sort of had I wouldn't say he's had a slow start, but I think he scored 3 goals. But I think it's a new team and the team are getting used to him. I think it's going to take time. So I didn't expect him to, I don't expect him to score like 30, 40 goals this season. I mean, I think he'll get 20. I think there'll be games where he'll score quite a few goals in when we're winning quite comfortably. But I think the team are getting used to him. I think it will take time. I mean, you see that with Sesko from United, he's only scored 1 goal. So I think it's just about us getting used to him. I think if we play Eze, Odegaard, then I think he'll do a lot better when he's got that sort of creative sort of play with him. So I don't feel worried, but I think it would be nice for him to get on the score sheet maybe in our next game against West Ham, really.
You make such a good point that I feel like some people forget to mention, which is that it's about the players around you as well. You could have the best striker, but if they're not being fed those balls, then it's like, well, what are they meant to do? So
Yeah.
it's so key that having Eze, like you mentioned, he's been shining for us. He's been doing so well, getting on the score sheet himself recently, but also creating those opportunities. Same for Erdegaard, who's back, and I feel like he's now officially back. So it's actually really so true what you're saying, that he needs to have those creative outlets to be able to perform well. And I feel like week on week we're definitely building with that and definitely merging together. I guess the final question for the men's side that I have is, what do you think we can achieve this season, whether that's silverware, where we're finishing, whichever competition, but what do you think realistically we can do based off your view right now? Obviously this might change, but based off your view right now.
I think I think we can definitely win the FA Cup and the League Cup. I do believe we'll win something this season. I think the depth we have is crazy, and I think we'll do that. It's very difficult to have confidence with the league just because of past situations. We've gotten close, not close enough, and with Gyökeres maybe needing a bit of time to, I think he'll need a little time to settle in, and then I think next season he'll be great. But I don't know if we can win the league. I think I'm still kind of undecided. I always take it a game at a time, but we don't know. Injuries could happen. We know if we have injuries. We've had injuries already, but I don't know. I don't know if the league. I think it's possible, but I think Arteta does have to make some of the right decisions sometimes. But I think if you play SA or Odegaard in that attacking midfield position, I think we'll be fine. I think as well you've got great players. Martinelli's been coming on, getting on the score sheet. Saka's come back, so I think we've still got great depth there. So I think if I had to give you an answer, I think we could win the FA Cup this season. I think the League Cup. Obviously we want the league, the Champions League. I don't know. I don't really know the Champions League because you've got to have a bit of luck in that competition. Which we had a bit last season. So I think we could go far. I could see us going to maybe semi-final or final. I think we'd win it just yet. But yeah, I think this team is definitely going to win something this season. I think you can see, I think they're hungry. They need to win something. I think if they won an FA Cup, it might shift the mindset. They'll want to win even more. I know the FA Cup is great. It's not a league title, but I think that would probably help the players be able to win something.
Completely agree. I feel like this is probably one of the most level-headed responses I've ever heard from an Arsenal fan about silverware, because I feel like so many people are like, yeah, we're going to win the league, we're going to win the Champions League, we're going to win everything. And I'm like, okay, realistically though, because like you said, I think the Champions League has a lot of luck to do with it as well. And we know we can get far. We know that Rice hopefully can score those free kicks in the Champions League, but it's just whether we get the right draws necessarily, and when the home leg is, the away leg. It just depends. So I feel like there's so many factors, but I completely echo basically everything you said about League Cup, FA Cup. We just need something, and I think I say we need something. I think it's more for Arteta. He definitely needs that
Yeah.
silverware. So I think yeah, there's definitely hope. There is definitely hope. So I want to stay positive like you and agree with that. Moving on to the women's side, I feel like recently there's not as much positivity and not much hope because we've only played 4 games in the WSL. It's still early on, but the mood seems to have already shifted a little bit because we won the first 2 games, arguably easier games, by quite a few goals after conceding first. And then the last 2 games we've drawn, which Man United, I feel like that was a fair draw. But Villa, that shouldn't have been a draw. I just want to hear your thoughts. Like, do you feel like this is a time that Arsenal fans should start panicking? Or do you think everyone's just being dramatic? It's still really early stages.
I think it is tough because with the WSL, there's only 12 teams. You play them twice, so you don't play as many games. So I think the title race, unfortunately, it can get to a point early in the league where it can be off quite quickly. I think the draw against United, I think that was a bit of a. I think both teams were missing a bit of magic in that game, to be honest with you. And it was disappointing, but I was sort of okay with it because United have improved and we were great defensively. I think in the Villa game, because we didn't kill the game off earlier, that was our problem. And I think as well, what we're seeing is, I think we're seeing quite a few tired legs, especially with, Caldente. The Euros, they've just had the Euros, they've not had much time to rest. So I think that's another thing. I think some of the players probably a bit tired from the Euros as well. Chloe Kelly's had a little bit of an injury, I know she's back now, but I think it's not been great. I mean, at this moment, I wouldn't say it's done. I think if we lose to Man City, then I'd probably say I wouldn't feel like it's likely we're going to win the league. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's because I don't see Chelsea dropping many points. Chelsea are great. I mean, I think we do have to go to Chelsea. You know, we played them in November. We have to go and beat them. So I think for me it's so tough because with this league it's a lot shorter, so you can't have many draws or losses. But I think I think if we beat Man City, I think it's definitely game on. But it's going to be a tough game. Um, I think it's hard. I mean, the league is a lot harder. I mean, the Champions League is completely different because you get harder teams probably in the Champions League, but with the league, you've got to be consistent week in, week out, and that's very difficult to do. And I think we maybe have looked a bit predictable in some areas, so I think it'd be good to change it up a little bit for the game. But yeah, I think we've had a good start, but we've just picked up a few. I think if we beat Villa, I think we'd feel a lot more confident really going into the Man City game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think what you mentioned there, which is so key, is consistency wins the league. I think with even if you look at Arsenal season last year, with the league we were a bit inconsistent. We for some reason the women's side always show up in the big games, but the smaller games we go a bit missing or we get a bit complacent, which is a trait I'm not really keen on. I thought we had sort of shifted that since winning the
Yeah,
Champions League. Obviously that was a game that was a big side. We went in as underdogs and we showed up and we really proved why we should have won that Champions League, but that was like a one-off game almost, whereas in the league you have to be consistent, and yeah, dropping points is a little bit worrying. One thing that I've noticed that isn't consistent is Slegers' rotations and the starting 11. Starting 11 doesn't really seem to be set. It seems to be she mixes it up, which is great depending on the game you're doing it, and it seems to work for the majority of the games, especially last season when she took over. But are you concerned about the players that she's not bringing on the bench, the likes of Lotta Weber-Moy, Laia Cadena? They're not coming on, and we maybe need a centre back partnership, or the likes of Kyra Cooney-Cross. Do you have any alarm bells that are ringing with the rotation she's making or not making?
I think she's making quite a lot of changes. I mean, I think she needs to figure out the attack, which players she wants to play on the wing, because against United we saw Stina up top, Russo playing in a deeper role, and that clearly didn't work. So I think she has to figure out who is going to be a starter on the left, on the right, because it's difficult
Mm-hmm.
because Beth Mead is doing all the right things, and I get why she's been starting because obviously Chloe Kelly has had an injury. I think Chloe Kelly would be a starter, Olivia Smith has obviously started some games, Ford started some games. I think she needs to decide who's going to be a starter, in some of these positions. Midfield, I think we're struggling a little bit. I think Caldente, I'll be honest with you, I think she's a bit tired. I think she could do with maybe a little bit of a rest. Palova's been getting some minutes, which is nice, but as you mentioned, I don't really know why Gooner Cross hasn't had many minutes at all. I would give her a shot. I would give her a chance. I don't know why she's not had a chance, and I know a big topic of conversations, obviously Jenna Nicewanger, because she's not on the bench at all, which I'm not too sure why, because I know maybe she's not a starter, but you could bring her on and see what she can do. So yeah, I think it's difficult. I don't really know what lineup you'd go for in this game, but I think as well she should probably figure out if she's going to change something. I think she needs to figure out her strongest 11 and just stick with that. Obviously Katie Reid has stepped in and she's done a great job. I do think we miss Leah actually, her passing as well, that's missed, but I think Steph Catley and her have built a great partnership as well. So I think defensively I don't have too many concerns. I think it's just maybe the midfield, the attack. We need to figure out who we're going to play and maybe stick with it.
So based off that, because you've sort of covered all areas of the pitch, who would you like to see definitely starting? Obviously you don't need to say like a full 11, but who do you want to see, any key players you definitely want to see starting against City on Saturday? And also, what are your score predictions in general, thoughts about that game?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because you don't want to change too much because it's a big game for us. I don't know if I'd drop Cardente or play her. I'm still undecided. I would bring her on in the second half. I just think that I would love to see Palova or Gooner Cross. I think one of them would be great. I think we need a bit of a change. I think in the attack, it's difficult. I mean, I'd probably play Chloe Kelly because I think we know what a great player she is, and maybe play Ford. Olivia Smith is difficult, really. But yeah, I think maybe resting some players, bringing them on the second half, or bringing them on in the 50th minute or something. Because I think what we're doing clearly it isn't working enough. But yeah, I think prediction wise, I did go 2 on Arsenal because I think we can bring Stina on. Stina can win us the game. I think we know she loves a goal against them. So yeah, I think it would be a very close game again because Miedemar is doing great, Bunny Shaw's doing great. It's gonna be a really close game, but I think we've got the quality to do it. I just think we have to take our chances if we want to win.
I feel like we should manifest that win because, like you said, it's going to be a super tough game. So I feel like it's going to be interesting. The names you mentioned, like Katie Reid coming up against Bunny Shaw, that's new. We've not really seen that. Or if she'll have Mark Miedemar, that's obviously going to be interesting. I feel like the whole dynamic of both teams, they are two teams that are looking for that title this season, especially City. They don't have Champions League football this year, so they will be pushing for that consistency. Yes, they don't have the squad depth, but I don't feel like you need it as much as long as your players don't get injured. So I feel like it could be quite a tough game for us. What are your overall thoughts? Obviously, you've mentioned Katie Reid, Olivia Smith. What are your overall thoughts of who is your favourite player right now in the team based off what they've done this season? Like, who do you think's a standout player?
That's a really good question. I think Olivia. Yeah, I think I've got. I mean, I love the certain players I love watching, but I think Olivia Smith. I think I do love watching her. I think. I mean, she scored a few great goals. I think just the way she plays, I think really suits us, and I think her passing's really good. I think she just gives it her everything, and that's what you want from these players. I love watching her. I think it's so good that we've got a great. I do appreciate how good our defence has been. Actually, I think Emily Fox is really good. I think Katie Reid's definitely done great. I think Steph Catley doesn't really get the credit she always deserves, so I think she's done really good. I think with Russo, it's so early days. You want to see her get on the score sheet as well, really. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of great players in the team, really. I don't know who really would actually start because, Ford's done really good. Ford hasn't done anything to be out the team, but Olivia Smith hasn't come to Arsenal to be on the bench. So it's an interesting one, but I think Olivia Smith's definitely been the favourite one to watch for me.
I was going to say, you've just mentioned so many players. I'm like, oh yeah, actually, that's a good one. Like, even Emily Fox, I think defenders are very underrated. We've seen with the Ballon d'Or, defenders never really get the credit they deserve because it's all about who scored the goal, who's won the
Yeah.
game. But I think you actually win games if you've got a good defence. So I feel like that's Emily Fox is definitely a key player. But for me, definitely Olivia Smith as well. Like, I feel like she's definitely been the signing of the summer. She's really come in, and it's just her confidence she's got, and it's also going to better the other players because you mentioned there Ford or Olivia Smith, who will you start? And it seems to be that that's a competition that they're going to make each other better down the line. So I'm very hopeful for that, and I feel like we can't. I don't know. I'm happy that we've sort of spun this conversation to be more positive about them because I think people are very easy to write teams off. But what are your predictions? Same as with the men's. What's your predictions for this season? What do you think we can achieve in terms of silverware, in terms of finishing positions?
I know right now as we're filming this, we're not in the best place, but I think by the end of the season, I think we'll be a lot closer to Chelsea and maybe Man City. Um, it's obviously hard to tell with the league, but I think last season, obviously, Rennie had to take over and it was a little bit of a mess. So I think this season we will be a lot closer to Chelsea. I did do a prediction. I did think we would I think we can still do it, win the league. I think, obviously, if we win a few games, then we're in a great place. So I think the league's definitely a possibility. I was saying this on my channel as well that it'd be lovely to get to an FA Cup final and win an FA Cup because, we've not won that for a while. It's with the Champions League. I think that's going to be a lot tougher to win, but I think we should. Like Chelsea would, go for all the competitions and see what we can do really. But I think the league is the one I'd love us to win because it's been so long since we've won it really.
No, 100%, 100%. I mean, I'm hoping that we can almost manifest it with everything you're saying about that. Also, FA Cup is kind of more of like a niche thought, but I was literally chatting to Farah, who I had on a few episodes ago on the Arsenal Humans Fanzone, and she, obviously, as the chair of the supporters club, was saying she'd love to take Arsenal to the FA Cup final. Like, imagine a whole sea of
Oh,
red in the stands at Wembley. I feel like that would just be amazing to witness. So I definitely feel like that should be our main focus, as well
yeah,
as obviously the Champions League, and just trying to be consistent in the league as much as we can. And hopefully we can get that. I think you said 2-1 or 2-0
yeah.
prediction on Saturday against City, which will hopefully keep pushing us and pushing us further. I feel like that's pretty much, we've spoken a lot about all the games, all the players, all about you. I just want to sort of end this episode by playing a little game. I actually did it in my first episode with Jamie, which was create your dream or your ideal Arsenal human. So I think for him he had like I think it was like Gyökeres's build of like being strong, but then I think he had like Özil's left foot or something like that. Like basically you can create the team and create your dream player. And I thought this was quite a good question for you specifically, same as with him, because you follow both the men's and women's. So it can be a mix of players, both present and past, men's and women's side. So I don't know if you want to just go through and be like, oh, the header from this player or the strength from this one, leadership. Like we can bounce off each other if you want. But yeah, just take it away with whatever. I know this is sort of just put you straight into quite an abrupt question, but yeah.
I think this is a good question actually. Headers, it's interesting. I mean, it's hard to tell with Gyökeres at this point, but I can go with him for the headers. Um, I think what do I think? With the strength, I'm thinking of two players. I can't decide. I'm thinking of like Kim Little or McCabe for
Could
the strength.
combine it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of them too because McCabe's just. I think she's so strong, but I think Little in that midfield anyway just isn't it. I think with pace, maybe Martinelli for the pace. I'm trying to think, yeah. Trying to think, the left and right foot to
Or
go
like
for.
I was gonna say left foot, right foot is it's quite tricky because I feel like obviously all the players can kick with both or at least strong with one. But I don't know, in terms of like maybe passing, is there any players in particular that stick out for you that you're like, oh yeah, when they pass with their right foot or something like that?
Do you know what? I know he started to come back, but I think Odegaard's passing. I go with his left actually. I think his passing has been. I know he's only come back, as I said, but I just think his passing is amazing to watch. Let me have a look. Maybe we'll go
It
with
can be
Beth Mead's
players from
right
the
foot.
past as well.
Yeah, I'll go with Beth Mead's right
Nice.
foot for that one.
I love what you're saying with Katie McKay. That's one player that I feel like gets overlooked, but because she is known as like Katie McCard, because she's always gets that yellow
Yeah,
card, it's so true that she's got that strength and that physicality. So imagine a player like her with, I mean, obviously her left foot's great, but imagine having like Erdegaard's passing as well. Like, I think the player you've just created is quite scary that you wouldn't want to come up against them at any point, basically. But it's so good that we've got so many players to pick from. And yeah, I feel like that was a little question that was very put on you last minute. So you
I love that question.
did well to think of all them. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I love
like you
that.
did well to think of all them players last minute. That basically brings us to the end of the episode. I feel like we've been yapping away about Arsenal, your connection with Arsenal, the men's, the women's, everything for about an hour now, which is crazy. But I really appreciate you coming on. And obviously, we've mentioned your journey of creating content. For anyone who, for whatever stupid reason, they're not already subscribing to you, what is your channel? Because I know you're really close to getting 4,000 subscribers. So hopefully, on the back of this video, we can help push that and get to that 4K journey. So yeah, obviously I'll add it in the link below. But if there's anything you want to say about it.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and I could talk to you all day about Arsenal. It's been great to come on here, and obviously make sure you are subscribing to Lucy's channel, because you're making great content. So yeah, if you want to check out my channel, it's Gooner Gossip TV. As Lucy mentioned, I just chat a bit about the games. Obviously, I do interviews sometimes. So yeah, I do obviously content with the men's team, the women's team. If you do want to check that out.
Perfect. And thank you for the little shout for me. I feel like it saves me having to say that at the end of the video for myself. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And anyone, just drop any comments from what you've learnt about Soph or Gooner Gossip TV. And make sure you go check her out because you do so many videos. I feel like I see on your Instagram story all the times of all the previews and reviews and everything. So there's loads and loads of content there that you basically won't get bored at all because there's always something to watch and listen to. But yeah, thank you for joining me. And I'll be back on Tuesday with Arsenal Humans podcast, just me. And then in a couple Fridays' time, I'll be with another guest. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Soph. And I'll see you guys soon.